Today's LO is students will be able to use percents to solve real-world problems, including finding the percent when given a part and the whole. This covers TEKS 6.5b. Preview challenge. Today I will be modeling a percent problem, and yes, you can use a model to solve a percent problem. A sports store received a shipment of 400 baseball gloves. 30% were left-handed. How many left-handed gloves were in the shipment? Okay, they want us to use the diagram to solve this problem. 30% means 30 out of. Okay, I want you to remember that a percentage is simply a fraction of 100. So in this particular case, it would be 30% out of 100. So that means there were 30 left-handed gloves for every 100 baseball gloves. Now let's complete the diagram to model this situation. We start off with 30 gloves, 30 left-handed gloves for the first set of 100 gloves that we received. Our next shipment was another additional 100 gloves that consisted of 30 left-handed gloves. Our third shipment also consisted of 100 gloves with 30 left-handed, with 30 of them being left-handed. And then our last shipment also consisted of 100 gloves with 30 of them, with 30 out of the 100 gloves being left-handed. Now let's describe how the diagram models the shipments of gloves. Now, today we're going to be finding a percent of a number. A percent is the equivalent to the ratio of a part to a whole. To find a percent of a number, you can write a ratio to represent the percent and find an equivalent ratio that compares the two numbers. To find 30% of 400, you can use the proportional reasoning method, which is basically using the scale factor. We know that 100 goes into 400 4 times. So to keep this proportional, we would have to multiply the top as well by 4. Or we can simply just multiply 30% times 400. We could either convert it into a decimal or we could use it as a fraction and just simply multiply. Okay, we will use proportional reasoning to find 28% of 25. First, we will write a proportion comparing the percent to the ratio of part to whole. Okay, we have our proportion set up. We have 25 as our whole. We do not know what our part is. And we have 28 for our percent. And we have 100 as the denominator because a percent is simply a fraction of 100. Okay, let's notice that 25 is a factor of 100. And what this means is that 25 can be is a multiple of 100. We can multiply evenly to get 100, or we could divide evenly to get 100. Now, let's find the multiplication factor, which is basically stating that how many times do 25 go into 100? And since 25 times 4 gives us 100, now all we have to do is find out what number times 4 equals 28. And we can do this by using the inverse operations and just simply dividing 4 28 by 4. And that will tell us how many times 4 goes into 28. Now we see that our proportion is 7 over 25 equals 28 over 100. And since 4 times 7 equals 28, 28% of 25 is equal to 7. And we will simply just write our answer as 28% of 25 is 7. Okay, problem B. We will be multiplying by a fraction to find 35% of 60. Step 1. We will write the percent as a fraction. 35% of 60 is equivalent to 35 over 100 of 60. Now, let's multiply. If we remember our mathematical terminology, we will remember that of is also another word or has another meaning for multiplication. So we'll simply just replace the word of with the multiplication sign. Now, let's multiply 35 times 35 over 100 times 60 over 1. This will give us 2100 over 100. Now, when we get that down to its simplest form, it will reduce all the way down to 21. So its simplified form is 21. And 35% of 60 is equal to 21. Now, let's solve problem C. Multiply by a decimal to find 5% of 180. Let's write the percent as a decimal. 5% is equal to 5 over 100, which is also equal to 5 to the 100th place. Now let's just multiply 180 times 5 to the 100th place, or 0.05. When we do this, it is equal to 9. 180 times 5% is equal to 9. So 5% of 180 is equal to 9. Find a percent given a part and a whole. You can use proportional reasoning to solve problems in which you need to find a percent. The school principal spent $2,000 to buy some new computer equipment. Of this money, $120 was used to buy some new keyboards. What percent of the money was spent on the keyboards? Step 1. Since you want to know the part of money spent on the keyboard, compare the part to the whole. So our part will be $120, which was the amount of money spent on the keyboard, compared to the whole, which is $2,000, the initial money that the principal had to spend on new computer equipment. Step 2. Write a proportion comparing the percent to the ratio of part to whole. Okay, when we set up a proportion, our parts have to be aligned, meaning that if we have parts in our numerator, on one side we need parts in our numerator on the other side. If we have holes in our numerator in our denominator, on one side we need holes in our denominator on the other side. That's how we will keep it proportioned, and you need to label your proportion so you know exactly which one is your part and your whole to make sure that you have it lined up correctly. Now, we're looking for our part, but we know that we're looking for our percent, And we know that a percent is a fraction of 100, so our denominator will be 100. And this would be equal to our part whole of 120 and 2,000. Step 3. Find the multiplication factor. It's also known as the scale factor. Since 100 times 20 gives us 2,000, we need to find what number times 20 equals 120. So to find the numerator, all we do is, since 20 times 6 equals 120, the percent is 6. And that's our answer. Our answer will be 6%.